A massive corporate cover-up, perfectly orchestrated, completely unraveled by a boring administrative document. Crazy, right? Today, we're diving into this explainer to break down exactly how real corporate accountability works and, let's be honest, how easily it can be subverted. The whole thing actually hinges on an outside partner, a vendor named Liam Ortiz. Liam was essentially brought in to be a rubber stamp during an audit hearing. He was supposed to just read a pre-scripted testimony, validate the company's official timeline, take his easy money, and go home. But he didn't. Instead of playing along, he brought his own original contract notes to the hearing. It's this incredible moment where an outside partner actually chooses the permanent record over their own financial retainer.
All right, let's get into Section 1, the vendor briefing script.
We've got this great quote from strategy lead Maya Carter that perfectly sets the stage. In the corporate world, a massive threat usually doesn't kick down the door as a screaming argument in a hallway, right? It arrives quietly, usually before anyone's even had their first cup of coffee. Maya immediately recognized that this vendor briefing document, which looked frankly incredibly standard and was filled with all these highlighted sections, was actually a highly calculated threat just hiding in plain sight.
Notice the definition of these highlighted sections, which they called safe answers. These definitely weren't helpful suggestions. They were a trap. They were pre-scripted talking points designed specifically by an external reputation consultant named Rochelle. Her team's only goal was to completely control the narrative and minimize risk for the executives involved in the prior cover-up. So basically, witness coaching dressed up as standard administrative prep.
Moving right along to Section 2, the illusion of closure. As Maya digs deeper, we see company executives, especially Victor Hale, a board executive under review, using this incredibly soft, reassuring language. They're throwing around phrases like fresh start and healing period to aggressively just push past the problem. But then you have independent board member Elise providing this absolutely incredible pushback. She cuts right to the bone, pointing out that true closure requires acknowledging what actually happened. Otherwise, you're just putting a shiny new cover page on the exact same broken system. And this sets up the core conflict perfectly. On one side, you have the loud, polished corporate excuse, with executives proudly stating that all vendors independently confirmed there was zero manipulation. But quietly, on the other side, Maya's team uncovered the reality. Vendors were literally handed highlighted safe answers. The official narrative was smooth, sure, but it was a complete fabrication. Which brings us to Section 3, building the proof map. Maya's audit team totally bypassed those loud executive opinions. Instead, they built a clean path from action to owner, creating this beautiful, cascading evidence trail in 3 steps. First, they looked at the metadata. Second, they correlated that with physical background records. And third, they validated all of it against the immutable IT system sequence. It all starts with Aisha, the new analyst. And we all know how experienced corporate folks often develop blind spots, right? They learn to skip over the boilerplate text and the tiny metadata timestamps because they just assume it's standard procedure. But Aisha found the very first crack in the company's story by simply reading the small print that everyone else literally ignored. She asked the basic, essential questions. Who changed this file? When did it change? And who actually approved it? Then we bring in Nina Ross, the executive assistant. She proved that hidden background work always leaves undeniable foreground records if you just know where to look. I mean, even if an executive deletes an invite or tries to have an off-the-record meeting, there are calendar exports. There are badge logs showing exactly who swiped into which floor at what time. There are saved drafts of documents before they were sanitized. You just cannot completely erase your digital footprint in a modern office. IT specialist Jordan Price is the one who synthesizes all of this. He takes Aisha's metadata and Nina's badge logs, and he translates those digital footprints into mechanical, repeatable proof. It completely removes all emotion from the equation. Like he says, it's not about suspecting someone of doing something wrong. It's literally just reading the sequence of events recorded by the servers. Because the logs simply don't lie. Okay, let's jump into Section 4. The meeting becomes theater. As the meeting kicks off, the folks tied to the external reputation consultant immediately try to rename intent and soften verbs. Victor Hale delivers this incredibly polite, yet highly loaded warning to Maya. He basically attempts to frame the truth as a form of potential instability. He's essentially saying, hey, you made your point, now back off before you damage the company's stock and reputation. It's such a classic tactic, right? Trying to make the person uncovering the cover-up feel like they are the one actually causing the problem. Next up, Section 5, Trusting the Record. Remember Liam? Well, instead of playing along, he produces the original digital document with the tracked changes fully visible. This proves, without a shadow of a doubt, that those so-called independent answers were actually ghost-written by the reputation team. It perfectly matches Maya's timeline and utterly destroys Victor's tidy little closure package. Maya's strategy here is just brilliant. By presenting the tracked changes, she completely removes all emotional arguments from the table. She isn't asking the board to take her word against Victor's. Nope. She is relying solely on the company's own system logs and the executive's own digital artifacts. She is literally forcing them to argue with their own computers. And then Elise Warren drops this pivotal question that completely captures the boardroom freeze. It permanently shifts the power dynamic. The executives can no longer claim this was just standard witness preparation. Because, think about it, if it was standard, if it was harmless, they wouldn't have gone to such crazy lengths to scrub the metadata, coach the vendor, and bury the original drafts. The absolute silence in that room was the sound of pure accountability. Finally, Section 6, Designing a New System. Maya is offered a chance to wrap this whole thing up behind closed doors. Punish the bad actors and just move on quietly. But she completely refuses to accept a private fix. She insists on creating a public system that protects future employees, people who aren't even in the room today and might not even work at the company yet. If you quietly fix a massive breach of trust, you rob the organization of the lesson it so desperately needs to learn. So these are the concrete governance changes Elise and Maya implemented to ensure this kind of orchestrated cover-up absolutely cannot happen again. First, they now require direct, unfiltered vendor attestations. Second, they enacted a strict ban on pre-scripted witness preparation by interested, biased parties. And ultimately, they baked it right into the corporate bylaws that the organization must prioritize the verifiable record over the comfort of its external retainers. This entire case is just a massive testament to the power of documentation, the absolute necessity of leadership accountability, and the importance of maintaining your personal integrity against the crushing weight of toxic office politics. Because at the end of the day, when a witness refuses the script, the room has literally no choice but to finally hear the real story. So, as we wrap this explainer up, I want you to think about the systems and dynamics functioning in your own workplace. When a crisis hits, is your company actually looking for the truth? Or are they just hiring consultants to write safe answers and design a shiny new cover page? Think deeply about the digital footprints you leave behind and the ones you might be choosing to ignore. Thanks so much for joining me, and keep your eyes on the record.